Okay. Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Tommaso Galli and I'm here representing the European Association of Development Agencies. I will then quickly describe what European Association does. Second of all, I'm here because EURADA is a project consortium member of a Horizon 2020 project which is called Xpress. And this Horizon 2020 project goes exactly in the same direction Rama mentioned a few minutes ago, which is the question how public entities, how regions and municipalities can somewhat stimulate the private sector businesses in order to trigger processes creating more green innovations. But first things first, what is EURADA? As said, EURADA is the European Association of Development Agencies. We are an entity based in Brussels next to the European Parliament, and we represent 77 members throughout Europe. We represent both members based in EU member states as well as members not based within the European Union. So we can truly have this, let's say, generic overview of what public entities might need in order to support economic development in different policy fields, among the others, energy, environment, and of course then economic issues and aspects. Yeah, then I moved to the Xpress project. This is a Horizon 2020 project. It has got something like 3 million euros of budget, and the most important thing is that it has a very wide, very broadened consortium. If we can then move the slide. Thanks. Yeah, move it. Yeah. You can. Yeah, you can move it one more time. Yeah. Okay, briefly describing what this project is. As said, 16 different consortium members. We got very lucky because the composition of the project consortium is very wide. We include some partners very active in the academia, for instance, the University of York. We have some partners more active in the business sector, for instance, Element Energy Limited. We have entities operating as research organization as the lead partner, APRE. And of course, we have non-profit associations and umbrella organizations of local authorities as well as regional authorities and development agencies. One is EURADA and the other one is E-Ambiente. Why it matters to bring together all these different actors within a project consortium? Because by doing so, we can once again gather somewhat the offer, the view of SMEs, and the demand, the view of regional and local authorities demanding for change in terms of green innovation and in terms of the development of energy policies. Yeah, now we are getting a bit deeper into what the project is aiming at. I will just quickly read out the first statement and then try to analyze what it means. Yeah, so Xpress aims to facilitate the introduction of renewable energy sources and technologies. And the final goal is to reduce and to increase their share in the final energy consumption. That means very simple, like in a very simplistic way, two things. The project aims to make it easier for regional and local authorities to adopt policies, programs, strategies in order to increase the use of renewable energy sources, the so-called RIS. Why so? Because the project believes that there's still room for improvement for, let's say, decrease the consumption of energy sources which are based on polluting and traditional sources. So there's this very clear, let's say, green willingness, smart green willingness to somewhat change the structure consumption is organized at local and regional level. How do we want to go for this goal? Once again, very briefly, very broadly, we set two main objectives. The first objective is to introduce more smart green public procurement. Green public procurement means that cities and regions purchase more goods, services, and works which are based on renewable energies. By the way, talking about green public procurement, I also, if you're interested in the topic and you want to know more in a very, let's say, well-structured way, I kindly advise you to use the GPP, the Green Public Procurement Training Toolkit, which was created by the European Commission. I don't know how many of you are into this topic, but this is also a very good toolkit created so as to facilitate professionals and non-professionals to understand the world of green public procurement, of how, once again, cities and regions acquire services, goods, and works based on a more green and smart concept of energy. And the second main goal of the project is to contribute to develop innovative financing tools and share best practices to support companies, to support SMEs, to uptake in a cost-effectively way innovative RIS technologies along the competitive value chain. I know it sounds a bit abstract, but we are sure that there's still room for improvement for companies to somehow upgrade their technology, upgrade their way of production, so as to incorporate more elements which are green, which are smart, and which goes in the direction to change the ways regions and cities demand energy and technologies related to energy. Yeah, we can move to the next one. This slide is a bit complicated, I admit it. First of all, how many of you know what low carbon energy means? Can you please raise your hand? Low carbon energy. Very good. One person is.
Yolanda.
Yolanda.
To use renewable energies in order to not to pollute the environment.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So low carbon energy, very simple. These are sources of generation of energy such as wind power, solar power, hydrogen. And in a structured way, the very first step of the project, which I started only in October, so it's a very young project, but the first concrete step we are going to achieve is the one to carry out a mapping action to understand how cities and municipalities need low carbon energy sources. So the first one will be just a mapping action. The second one will be, once we understand what the needs are, sorry.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
if I can interrupt
Yeah.
you.
Sorry.
Not only, of course, photovoltaic, but also imagine to use, the difference from gas with biogas. Gas comes from the oil, from the petroleum. But we are talking also of technologies like geothermia, microturbines in the cities, mini eolic, everything that allows us to reduce the carbon emissions. And there is a lot of experience, like in in most of the countries, they recollect the used oil from hotels, restaurants, and catering to transesterificate that and to produce biodiesel for the public fleet of buses, Valencia. In Palma de Mallorca, the public facility of water, the Maya, they are really extremely good in Palma de Mallorca. They reduce the methanol from the gas from the sludge. Sludge is the waste from the depuration water treatment plant to produce biogas to move the public fleet of large lorries that go for the waste. It reduced the emissions of CO2.
Yeah, thank you very much for the input, of course.
Always with examples, perhaps
it helps.
We understand each other better.
Yeah. Okay, so going back to the concrete steps of the project. First of all, we want to map the low carbon energy needs of municipalities and cities. Mapping action comes first. The second one is an activity which goes more into research and analysis. we want to understand what the barriers are of cities and municipalities which impede them to invest in renewable energies. What are the barriers for cities and municipalities? Well, they are, of course, of different categories and types. There are certain municipalities and cities which have never used really green public procurement, which have a really little small use of green energy. So let's say there's something called, we could call it, a problem of experience, a lack of experience. There are some other cities and municipalities which have something like a lack of cultural instruments to understand how important the sources of energy production are for the city. There are other public entities which do not have any sort of legislation in this regard. Some other have very old-fashioned legislations in these regards. It's also important to understand that some cities don't have financial instruments, don't have public policies to help then the development of green innovation. So different problems. We want to analyze all of them. We want to categorize and classify them so as to understand what the other steps are so as to increase the consumption of green energy in cities. The third step is that we want to develop a methodology to analyze these green technologies and to understand in a more concrete way what the CO2 emissions are of this technology. So let's say a thorough analysis of what these green technologies really are. And then we can move to the next steps. As in all projects, as you might know, there's a part called collection of best practices, and our project belongs to this category. But this time we want to put the focus on two best practices, not only those of public entities. We want to put the focus also on best practices of company which are able to offer the most convenient and the most comprehensive ways to increase the use of green innovations in cities. So once again, we focus on the offer as well as on the demand, because we also want to focus on public authorities which are already implementing best practices in terms of policies, programs, and tools supporting the use of green innovations, renewables, and so on and so forth. So I think one of the main aspects of this project is that we really managed to cover both demand and offer, starting from the project consortium, going through then the implementation of the project. Yeah.
If I may, this is for all the projects, in the evaluation, all the European Union funding projects, part of the evaluation is about how to disseminate the best practice, not only in Horizon 2020, but in life is called innovative demonstration pilot projects, or in the field of Interreg. European Union is not just a big provider of EU funding, that is, but also, for me, in my understanding, is more important how majors, how public sector could be inspired about, and they don't use enough, they could inspire if they have a problem, they could Google live projects or Horizon 2020 to see what has been the solution in other municipalities. And once you are in a European Union project as a partner, you have to facilitate the information of what you have done, the best practice, and also the bad practice, because sometimes you are doing something that is not working, okay? And that's quite important. And here, I think we have some potential synergies and collaboration. No, Beatriz? What do you think about collecting good practice of small and medium enterprises? What can we do from Startup Your Products?
I don't know now.
Eh?
I don't know what to say now.
Okay, and what we have a lot of, and after this meeting, and thank you very much, we can provide you, we can put you in contact with some different small and medium enterprises that has obtained the Seal of Excellence in Horizon 2020, or that we are collecting in the field of Xpress. For example, through the CILIFO program, we have some nice innovative companies that has projects to transform the agricultural waste or the forest waste into carbon with pyrolysis and other technologies that could inspire for municipalities that has around agriculture or forest. That is the case. Or we have also through a Startup Europe Awards that is managed by Beatriz, we have from the last 3 editions, we have nice winners in national categories and in European categories about the small and medium enterprises in this field, about how to reduce the carbon emissions. And okay, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And and then the next step is once we analyze, let's say, we map the needs of local authorities, we analyze what companies can really do in the field of green innovations, also considering green public procurement. We want to create an infrastructure, we want to create a web page, a web platform, where once again companies can offer their portfolios of technologies, and then local authorities can identify and then purchase the offer they want the most, so as to increase the final energy consumption at local level for using more green energy. So that's the step further. If you can move. Yeah, we will first of all focus on cities belonging to the countries in this list. As you notice, there are not only EU member states, there's also, for instance, Norway, there's the UK, which is going to be perhaps not a member of the EU anymore. And that's once again a very interesting aspect, because what we are doing here within this project could be perhaps replicated well beyond the European Union. And here once again we could go back to what EURADA is. As European Association of Development Agencies, we want to promote our agendas not only within the European Union but also well beyond. And projects like this one with non-EU member states as partners are very useful because they help us understand how we can do it, how we can transfer expertise also outside from the European Union. Yeah, anyhow, so now that you've got this list of states, I can explain you the other step we are going to go for, if you can move. Yeah, the Xpress project is foreseen to organize 10 co-creation workshops. Why co-creation? Because these workshops aim to generate knowledge. In the workshops there are going to be SMEs, regional and local authorities working in the field of green energy and public procurement. We want to create, through a bottom-up approach, very good strategy, well thought strategies about how to shape green public procurement in a way that it is easier and more accessible for companies to be applied at local level. Co-creation, an example is on the slide. This is going to be the very first co-creation workshop in Odense in Denmark. And the team organizing, the partner organizing this co-creation workshop in Denmark has already expressed a very enthusiastic feedback that they are reaching out the foreseen number of participants, meaning that there's really need, even in, let's say, in technologically speaking, well-advanced countries, there's the need to sit together at the table, companies and development practitioners, so as to redefine what public entities should do and what companies should do to match demand and offer. I don't know, I guess I don't see many Danish people, but anyway, I kindly suggest you to take part in this workshop. If you happen to be in Denmark, or if you have entities or experts, in Denmark, you can, I kind of encourage you to spread the voice. And
if you send to us this info, we can spread
it will be done
in our network.
Yeah.
Because green public procurement is for the people with legal background. We find that quite interesting, as the Professor Cristina Tavio and other partners we have. And it reminds me some of the projects we have been working with, like Novel Grid, that has it was for Smart Grid, and it was a project of 40 million euros, Novel Grid, and a very important part was about green public procurement. then for the people that has not legal background, some of you, do you know what is green public procurement as a concept? Some of you? Adriana, or no? Green public procurement? Okay.
I think I explained it, but you
Yes.
didn't pay attention then.
Yes.
No, so like procurement process is when a public authority needs to buy some goods, services, and works from private entity. So that's the process through which public money is allocated with a certain goal. Green public procurement is specifically that procurement process aiming to incorporate like for instance the reduction of CO2 emission. So let's say a process through which public money is allocated, also contemplating a green dimension. Maybe
It's quite important. We are talking of the public tenders. If a municipality has to buy, for example, buses, they can evaluate just the price, or they can evaluate also the green criterion in the evaluation.
Yeah.
That means if you provide to me buses that are hybrid or that provides or that pollute less, we offer X points. We have also the social public procurement. What does it mean? If you are a provider of the European Union and you offer, okay, if we have the tender, we will incorporate people that are in problems of social inclusion. Then let's include these people through the work. Then green public procurement means to try to incorporate in every public tender the green dimension. See, and that for our lawyers, Luis, Adriana, that's quite important. There are a lot. It means it's not just money, but it's just that to have that dimension, and it can for the private companies. It means that difference can make the difference to win the tender.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Briefly about this specific co-creation workshop. Another one will be organized in Brussels, in Belgium. So you're all kindly invited. By then we will be all experts in green public procurement. I can feel it. And what are the goals of this workshop? Well, I'm sorry to have to read them out, but they are straight to the point. So the co-creation workshop provides knowledge on international research on green supply. So how the private sector can provide energy. It provides knowledge on EU procurement rules. Of course, all 28 EU member states have to comply with EU procurement rules. That's why it is essential that it is one of the points on the agenda. The workshop will provide knowledge on Danish terms and conditions for green innovative public procurement, how it is done in Denmark within the EU legal framework of procurement, what are the country-based specificities. A focus will be on the barriers for investment. Why does the public procurement not occur that much? What are the reasons? What are the barriers? Yeah, we can move to the next one. Yeah, that's once again briefly what we've been talking throughout my short presentation. So what the final goal of the project is, which is to increase the application of green public procurement, as well as reduce the barriers for local and regional entities to use more, to invest more in renewables. And so that briefly, and then I think then we move towards the end. Yeah. This is me, Tommaso Galli. I'm in charge of this project. Esteban is the director. Esteban Pelayo is the director of EURADA. I hope it somewhat made sense to you. As said, this is a very young project, so the first co-creation workshop will be in Denmark. The webpage, the infrastructure where green innovations will be offered as well as bought is in the making, is in the process. So I will do my best to then keep you in the loop, keep you informed about the developments. But I think one of the topics of the future also in the EU agendas will be exactly green public procurement, will be the process of tendering with a green dimension. So, and why not then combining green public procurement with social procurement? So that could be like, this topic has, according to my view, a great potential, and participate in a co-creation workshop in Brussels. And that's it for my side.
Okay, from my side, thank you very much, Tommaso. What we
Department is in the end is like public investment in order to encourage private sector to do to acquire goods and technology and stuff, in order to encourage some actions, like in this case the renewable energies. So, but maybe because I'm in the legal department, but if this not how do you say what use is to encourage private sector for the economy if we don't have any kind of law enforcement? I mean, shouldn't be first the law enforcement to promote, to encourage these actions before encouraging this in an economical way? Or
Yeah. Law enforcement, you mean the police forces, or because
no? By law, encouraging not encouraging, but obligating this private sector to acquire these green ways to produce energy before encouraging them with less, less taxes or things like that. Because my formation law, if we don't have this coercion, I don't think the private sector, even though you give them more money and more opportunities of more economic opportunities, they don't really are encouraged to do so. But I don't know. It's my opinion. So.
No, it's very good, very good. Yeah, so to be concrete, let's go back to the example Joanna gave. No, a municipality needs to buy 10 buses. Very clear. The goal of this public policy is to increase the mobility within the city. Okay, so the municipality launches a tender. This tender, this public offer, stated that the buses need to have zero emission of CO2, need to be run by electricity, and that goes in the direction of law enforcement. So if you are a company producing, assembling buses or selling buses, you know that there's only one way to get the tender, which is the one to provide the buses with this kind of criteria, with this kind of technology. So law enforcement is somewhat already there. I mean, if there's only one tender asking to, one tender of a municipality asking to be offered buses of this kind, then you can only offer buses of this kind. So there's, for me, yeah. And another thing is, but not related to public procurement, just not directly related to that, is public authorities, cities setting certain goals. Like, I don't know, by 2040, we want to reach this kind of energy, of global energy consumption. But most of the time, these macro targets are not really legally binding. Sometimes they are, sometimes they are not. In the case of the EU member states, this target set might be not binding, but then the European Commission might give sanctions to member states not having the standards of energy production or violating environmental norms. So I'd say there are these are the two different streams. But for public procurement, the way is very clear. Yeah.
Thank you.
More questions? Adriana.
I don't know. Does it work?
Micro.
Okay, so, well, thank you for your explanation. We really appreciate I think it's really important raising awareness regarding the renewable energies, but also I think it is important to start from one statement, which is the problem that I think all the European countries are facing regarding the access to energy, not only renewable energies. For example, in Spain, it's really expensive, and I think this is also a problem of competition, because there are few actors in this field, and also we are depending on those states who have these resources. So I would like to know, in your opinion, which are the main challenges that the European Union is facing regarding the access to energy, to energies, and especially the access to renewable energies.
Yeah, that goes a bit beyond the project Xpress, but I'll try to give my answer. So I'd say the two most serious issues related to the energy consumption EU-wide are the following. One of them is related to the energy dependency from EU member states on actors like Russia, like Saudi Arabia. So let's say this is a more geopolitical dimension, especially for the countries of Central and Eastern Europe. Over 50-60% of the energy is, let's say, imported by Russia, and that exposed them to very serious political, let's say, political pressure. Russia has a great leverage towards them. So that would be the geopolitical dimension. When it comes to the use of renewable energies, some countries, I'm thinking of Germany, I'm thinking of Italy, a few years ago, like some 10 years ago, they decided to go green, so to say. And and they are still somewhat paying what they promised back then, saying if you imagine 10 years ago in Germany and Italy, if you would invest a certain amount of money in infrastructure, then you would receive some subsidies. And the subsidies were very generous and still are. But they were framed in legally binding contracts. So that's also a bit the risk of public policies supporting renewable energy. Then you don't know how fast the market is going to change, the technology is going to change, but at the same time you should promote, you should do your best to increase the consumption of green energy. Yeah, so that was basically, I think, without then holding a very long conversation, but I think these are the two aspects. So yeah.